Okay, so I'm going to be playing Our Life. This is the first game, so I'll just run through this in case anybody's never played this game before. So, welcome to Our Life, beginning and always. There are various ways you can customize and interact with the game. This tutorial is an overview of how certain features work. You can read the full tutorial from the main menu and to learn about everything in detail. To start off, the game is divided into 4 time periods called steps. Step 1 is childhood, Step 2 is adolescence, Step 3 is young adulthood, and Step 4 is adulthood. Our life is further divided into sets of vignettes that take place during specific periods of time. These are called moments. Moments can be played in any order or skipped entirely. You move on to the next step whenever you want to by selecting the summer is ending. Step 1 to 3 include 5 moments each, and even more can be unlocked by purchasing DLCs. I do have the DLCs, just the main DLCs though. Some are out now and other DLCs were released later on. Step 4 is an epilogue and doesn't include moments. A lot happens over the years that go by, especially in regards to the character you play as. You determine nearly everything about the main character: name, appearance, personality, pronouns, interest, skills, their relationship with major characters, and so on. You can decide to change the details as time goes on, with a few exceptions. Your last name, skin tone, and eye color can't be altered once set. Much of the MC's basic traits are determined as a character creation screen. As the MC grows up, more options become available on the screen. As mentioned, one of the decisions you'll get to make for your character is selecting a name. You can type in any name you like, or you can pick a preset name. Preset options are called voiced names because the name will be voiced aloud by the romantic lead. You'll get to hear him say your name as you play through the story. Only the default name, Jamie, is included in the base game. Hundreds more can be added by getting a free voiced name expansion DLC. The full collection of names is separated out as a DLC because of how large it is. If you're not interested in this feature, you don't need to get it. Each name in the DLC belongs to or was selected by someone who supported this project. On the character creation screen, there's a cute doll you can decorate to get an idea of what your MC looks like with the different traits put together. Not all the things you decide about the MC appear on the doll. The script referencing what you decided for the MC is the main way those decisions influence the game. Our Life has a first-person perspective, so your character doesn't appear next to other characters' sprites. You only see the MC as the decorative doll and in special cut-in CG images. The cut-in CGs only appear if certain choices are made. It's possible not to see any during a playthrough. There's also a second type of special MC-based screen, the interest and comfort screen. Unless you get DLCs, the game has one interest, Cove Holden. He grows up with the MC, and the interest comfort screen is crucial for determining how that plays out. Interest level sets how much you like him. There are 4 levels: disinterested, fond, crush, and love. Love is the only available starting in step 3, and you are fond or crush in step 2. Comfort determines how you generally react/think when it comes to him. There are 3 levels: nervous, relaxed, and direct. Your level of interest and comfort will set the type of dynamic your character has with the love interest. What you did in the past will influence the present, and feelings can change over time. You get to pick your interests and comfort near the beginning of every step. Comfort can be switched between the 3 levels as you please. Your interest level can only stay the same or increase. Your current level of interest will become the new lowest option on the screen in the future. For example, if you decide to be fond in step 1, disinterest will not be available on the screen in step 2 and 3, which will make fond the bottom level option for your relationship. Interest level has an impact when it comes to physical interactions with Cove. While growing up, things are rather simple. If you get along with one another and have a close relationship, you can choose to touch him, and Cove will occasionally interact with the MC in lighthearted or comforting ways. But starting in step 3, touching can become more romantic and suggestive if you're at crush or love. To make sure things go nicely with that, there will be an extra choice to determine initiative level, and a bonus mini tutorial that goes along with the choice to explain the feature in more detail. Basically, even if you decide you like Cove, the game won't force you to act on those feelings. You can always choose not to get together with him, choose not to accept or give romantic gestures, etc. If you do decide to date Cove, though, you can't break up with him later. Interest and comfort gets the basics down, but it's the choice that appear throughout the normal game events that decide what actually happens between the MC and Cove. And it isn't only the MC who is impacted by your decisions. Cove grows and changes over the years. How he treats and what he experiences helps shape who he becomes. In step 2 and 3, Cove's personality, appearance, and interest will vary based on what happened in the previous step. If something is something of a mystery, exactly how your decisions end up changing him, you can try to guess as you go along. Or if you prefer, you can also just design your own ideal Cove directly using the Cove Creator option that pops up at the beginning of step 2 and 3. Making the choices you want is always more important than making a choice because you feel like you have to in order to get a certain result. When a choice does appear, usually you'll see that hovering the cursor over an option shows a certain color: yellow, blue, or green. The colors aren't related to specific points or effects. They're only there to give a bit of insight on how the tone/emotion of the choice, since text alone can potentially be read in more than one way. Blue tends to be casual or straightforward. Yellow is more emotive and reactive. Green is less certain and uncommitted. Though there are hundreds of options in our life, and not every choice menu falls in line with that pattern. Picking just one color every time doesn't give you a gameplay benefit. Only stick to a certain type if that's what you happen to like. Otherwise, switch between them freely. Always pick yellow, never pick yellow. Pursue romance right from the start, never romance love interest. These disagreeable or amiable, none of them will lead to a bad ending. You're welcome to enjoy the events and shape the story without reservation. And then, if you like, you can play again to try something new. There's only ever more good content to discover. We hope you'll have a nice time with our life. Thank you for playing. So, I will create my character and I'll be back. Okay, so here's my character. I've decided to give her the name Luna for right now. So she's got an oval face with peachy skin, sharp eyes with beige color. She does have a braid in the front, the ponytail. She has orange hair. She has a birthmark on her cheek. She has rosy cheeks, freckles on her cheek and nose. She's medium in with a hand size. She's wearing glasses. She's got a scar on her arm and leg. She has freckles on her arms, legs, and torso. She wears pants and shirts mostly, and she does have bracelets and necklaces. So, again, this is my character, and I will start. So, done. Okay, so the game is beginning. Summer in Sunset Bird was a special time of year. Your usually sleepy town begins to bustle. It was a popular tourist destination, with people coming from all over to enjoy the beach, the weather, and the relaxation that came with both. The smell of the ocean, crisp and salty, hung in the air, bringing 3 whole months of schoolless vacation with it. During the summer, your moms didn't like you to wander too far outside of your neighborhood, so you knew the area pretty well. That included the people. Families came and went from Sunset Bird, but they mostly stayed and did what your mom called putting down roots. They built businesses, they got to know each other, and they definitely said hello to the nice young kids who waved when passing their stores. Going for a walk around town mostly meant that the familiar, friendly residents waved and asked how your family was, or most often just said hello. So this is the first decision. So again, you can pick whichever one that you want, but again, it doesn't really change the way that the story goes for these kind of ones. So first option is you didn't really get why they always had to say hi. They saw you every day, but you nodded back at them anyway. Or you ended up saying hi to a lot of different people, since most of the tourists that came and went every summer were the same ones. Or you were too anxious to say hi back to most of the other residents that greeted you, but they all knew you well enough to expect that. So personally, if it was me in this situation, this would be my answer. This would be my response. So I'll go with it. They still smiled at you anyway, and they made you feel a little more comfortable. But today there was a man sitting on the curb outside your house. He was sitting with his head in his hands, his whole body slumped over, and you wondered if he was even a real person, or a statue that had magically sprung up from the ground overnight. Whoever or whatever he was, you had never seen before. One thing about knowing everyone in Sunset Bird was that people who you didn't really recognize really stood out. It was rare for tourists to venture into the residential district, as your mom called it. So for you, not knowing who a total stranger was set off a lot of red flags. Your mom had talked to you and your big sister Lizzie about this kind of situation before. So again, another option. You hadn't exactly been listening at the time. You think it could be okay to talk to new people. They mentioned that some people aren't good to talk to, but other types of people can help you even if you don't know them. Or you remember that it's okay to run away if you feel uncomfortable. You don't have to worry about being polite then. So, me, this is mine. You weren't sure about this man yet. Still, you felt a bit scared knowing that he was blocking the way to your front door. But you were pretty interested. You wanted to know more about what was going on. Whether he was nice or not, you didn't want to be bothered. So, again, some things will lead to different interactions and things happening differently. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save here. Ignore that. That's a previous save that I have. So, saving there. And exit. So, again, this is the best way to do it. What I recommend is if you like one, go for it, but you can save and go back to the other options. That's why I usually save only when a choice pops up, so that way I can go back to the options and pick which one I like better. So for now, I'll stick with green, as always. You slowed down, as you thought about how you could get around this. There was a split second where your eyes met. That wasn't good. he was probably going to say something now that he'd seen you standing around here. Hey, you were right, his deep voice called out to you, but you didn't say anything. Unfortunately, the man stood up and started making his way toward you. And again, some of these things will lead to different events. So, not wanting to seem too approachable, you folded your arms and stared. Still unsure about him, but willing to be friendly, you offered the stranger a smile. Your whole body froze in place as he approached. So I'll go with the middle. The man gave a grin of his own back. Do you live around here? What's your name? You looked the man up and down, taking in his tan skin and relaxed appearance. At least his clothes were relaxed. The way he was acting wasn't. He had sharks on his shorts and a stingray tattoo, and you wondered if he was obsessed with the ocean or something. While you made your assessment, he looked at you expectantly, waiting for an answer to his question. So, again, pick what you want. If anything, I'm going to say, yes, I live here. I'm not going to tell him my name now. That's great. He looked happy to hear it, giving you a broad smile. Oh. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a clean $20 bill. It crinkled in his hand as he held it out to you. Even more confused than before, you looked back at him. Could you do me a favor? Nothing bad. Sorry, let me start over. He cleared his throat and stood up straighter. From where you were standing, it just made him look creepier. I have a son. His name is Cove. Who's about your age. And so you chewed on the inside of your cheek. This guy was definitely obsessed with water. He wasn't a person like that in Sunset Bird. We moved in across the street, see? He gestured towards the house that had been empty for a year, his watch catching the late afternoon sunlight, and reflected off the walls. The gigantic for sale sign was finally gone. You must be Luna Stark, right? I met your moms earlier, and they told me you were 8, just like him, so... He took the $20 bill to bring it back to your attention, a hopeful smile tilting his lips at the corner. Can you try to be friends with my boy? Just give it a chance, and you can keep this. He's a good kid. You'll like him. But you gotta keep it a secret, too, okay? It would be friendly to say his dad sent you. You eyed the man. What could be so bad about this Cove kid that his dad would need to bribe strangers to be friends with him? What do you say? Want to make a deal? And again, this will have a slight effect to the rest of the story. But again, you can pick what you want. I'm going to save and let you see all 3 of the options, okay? So for now, my favorite option is usually the runaway option, but I will go for the middle one for right now, because this one is probably the neutral option. No, thank you. Sorry. He deflated enough to notice, but not completely. Are you sure? It won't be so bad, even if it's just for the summer. That'd be enough. That only made this sound more strange to you. What does it lasting for the summer matter? When it was clear his initial strategy wasn't going to fly, he took the bill back into a back pocket and changed the request. I get it. You don't have to. Would you be comfortable with he and I coming by for a normal visit? No money involved? And again, this is the way it goes. And I'm going to save, make a secondary save, and I'm going to load back in. So my favorite option is this one. So let's go for that. You sprung around and made a break for it. And again, For me personally, I usually go for this option or this option. So, no thanks. You turned on the spot and bolted down the street, ignoring his calls from behind you. Hey, come back. I'm sorry if I scared you. I don't know how else to ask. The soles of your shoes slapped against the concrete sidewalk as you ran, heat from the sun warm on your face. And this is the first diversion of the story, because it doesn't usually it takes a little bit longer for this area to come up. So again, I'm going to save and load and go back to this one. You take the bill. You carefully pluck the bill from his outstretched hand, grinning at the thought of what you could do with that much money. So, personally, this is the one that I would go for. It costs a few dollars to set up a library card. With this, you could pay for yourself instead of having moms do it. You enjoyed reading a lot of different books. You could get every one you liked now. And that was just a start, you thought. The sky was the limit with that kind of amount. The man smiled at you, his eyes crinkled at the side as he did. Great, that's great. I'll bring him by tomorrow. I want him to meet and greet with the neighbors today, but, well, I don't know where he's gotten off to. He laughed when he said that, but with the way his face looked, you thought he actually wanted to cry. If you see him, can you tell him to come home? He's got a pink cast and glasses. You can't miss it. And again, this is usually the one that I would go for. You nodded, not totally certain that if you'd find Cove willing to look. The man smiled and reached out to pat you on the head, pausing before doing so, then pulled his hand away instead. Your moms are already checking around for me. Such a thoughtful group you are. Not a big overlook, too. Can't put everyone else to work while I keep sitting here. I thought he might come back, and that's not what's important. I have to go. Thanks again, Luna. So much. He jogged off down the street without another word. You decided to check the hills behind your house. And again, this is when the diversions start happening. So, personally, this is not the route I go for myself. I usually don't take the money. I usually go for the run option, but I have done the no thanks option as well. Because either way, you will be prompted with the same reaction, but you do get a different response from Cove with each option. So, I will finish this prologue and then I'll get back to the rest of the story later. So, for now, I will continue on with the middle option of I don't want the money. I will show you how this one does divert, but it doesn't divert by much. So let's load back into this. So we can say, yeah, I'll bring it by tomorrow. And again, this doesn't have much of a diversion. Everything's the same with this one. The only one that has a slight difference is the response you give when taking the money, saying no, and running. Those are the only differences. You get the run option gets you to a faster conclusion for the prologue. So, again, this is always my favorite part. So, let's get to this. And the chirping of crickets in the tall grass greeted you, quiet and familiar. From the top of the hill, you could see the ocean. As you walked, you listened to the crash of the waves on the shore and the seagulls squawking as they settled down for the night. You loved to hear stories about the ocean, about the merfolk and sea serpents you imagined living far beneath the waves. Sometimes you could almost convince yourself you'd seen the flash of the shiny mermaid's tail in the distance. You took in a deep breath, and you wanted to try to relax, and couldn't. You weren't sure what, but something told you that you weren't alone, so you glanced around. And here we are. Okay. So, this is the full CG. The CGs do have slight animation on them. So, there's a boy sitting on top of the hill, almost completely hidden from the long grass and white flowers surrounding him. His head was buried in his knees, staring ahead of him by himself. For whatever reason, probably just that he wasn't paying attention, he hadn't noticed you yet. You watched him a minute longer, feeling a little bit like you'd found a deer in the wild. Though deer didn't have pink casts. But this new boy did. You wonder how he got it. After a few seconds, you took a step forward, then another, and then he glanced your way. His aquamarine eyes reflected the light of the moon. You stopped and raised a hand to acknowledge him and show you weren't scary. And again, this is one of those ones where, depending on what you choose, you will get special responses to Cove from your character later on in the story. The one option that gives you that is, "Hey, Space Cadet." With a start, he jumped to his feet, his hands balled into fists at his sides. He didn't say anything, just stared at you in a strange way. He'd been crying. There were traces of tears on his cheeks and his knees, soaking the hem of his shorts, and his eyes were still shining with a few more. You'd obviously caught him off guard. His pink cast seemed to glow in the twilight, though when he caught you staring at it, he hid his arm behind his back. Something the man earlier had said stuck out to you. "Cove?" His eyes wide, he studied you. "How do you know that?" And again, you can go from here. "I met your dad." "Oh? So, is this your hill?" He gestured with his uninjured arm to the patch of grass surrounding you. His face fell at the prospect. "I can leave it if it is." "You can't own a hill." "Why not?" "How could you?" "You just do. I had a hill back home." "Well, this still isn't mine." "Oh." He sat back down with a thump, resting his chin on his knees again. Curious about the strange new boy with the odd dad, you sat on the patch of grass next to him. The pure white flowers that covered the hill rocked back and forth gently as the stars twinkled above. The way they dotted the sky made them seem like flowers, too. The night wind was cool as it traveled over the ocean and up the hill, chasing away the heat from the afternoon sun. "Why are you here?" A quiet hiccup escaped Cove as soon as you asked the question. Almost like they'd never stopped, his tears started again with a vengeance. "My parents. They don't want to live together with me anymore." The tears fell fast and heavy over his flushed cheeks, sticking in his dark lashes. "My mom made my dad leave, and he took me with him, and now we have a house here too, and I want to go home." The outburst took you off guard. By the time he was done wailing, Cove's chest was heaving with exhaustion. He sniffled and removed his glasses, wiping at his eyes with the back of his hand before he put them back on again. "I hate this place. I want my real life back. I want my mom." And again, this one really doesn't have any real development on the story. This is just a way to initialize your feelings to him. So, let's say that. He slipped his hand underneath his glasses and pressed his fingers against his eyelids. Cove wound himself up again for another long crying fit. You felt bad for him, being forced to come here with no choice. You couldn't imagine what it would feel like to live with only one of your moms, but it must be pretty hard. But from way off in the distance, you heard your parents. Luna! Kids, where did you go? Cove looked at you, tears still clinging to his cheeks. Don't tell them we're here. And again, personally, I go for either you have to go or sorry, I have to, or it will be okay. So I'll go with this one. You were struck by a sudden need to reassure Cove. It's not going to be all be fun. But isn't he your family too? Yeah, I guess. Then you can count on him when you really, really need him. You shot him a grin and pushed yourself to your feet. Slowly, Cove stood up with you, still looking a little reluctant. His dad's voice rang out again. Cove, can you hear me? He looked toward the sound of his dad's voice, silent, then turned away while rubbing his not bandaged arm. I still don't want to go. So again, normally I go for this one or this one. You waited silently with him. Yeah, I get it. You do? Before you could answer, you heard Cove's dad, even closer than before. There you are, bud. The trio of parents appeared over the curve of the hill. Instantly, all their eyes landed on you, and they rushed over. Both of your moms were at your side in a split second, face filled with worry. Luna, you're here after all. We've been at the park to check for Cove and then heard what happened earlier when you met the new neighbor. I thought you might have gone off further away. No, we were just sitting in the grass. Or Cove didn't want to go home just yet. Mommy gave Cove a small smile, then she turned back to you. Thank God you're both fine. Were you two having fun out here? You looked over at Cove, who was wiggling against his dad's tight hug and pushing at his arms. And again, this is the moment when a big thing with the story comes in. You can immediately say this, and it will lead to a lot of comments from your family, both your moms, your sister, and even some of your friends. So, you nodded smiling slightly. Oh, that's wonderful. Finally letting go of his squirming, scowling son, Cove's dad turned to the three of you. Thanks very much for finding him. I really don't know this neighborhood. Good thing Luna knows this whole area so well. Absolutely. We should be getting home now. It's been a long day for us all. Say goodbye, Cove. The two of them walked off into the darkness, heading towards the neighborhood. You watched Cove's bright pink cast until it disappeared. Tell you what, we'll have a proper play date tomorrow, okay? Your new friend's dad wanted to bring him by to see you and Lizzie. How does that sound? So, this is the one I'm going to go for. Both your moms laughed, and the sound overlapping into a warm, familiar chorus. Mommy put her arm around your shoulder and led you toward the path. Satisfied and more than a little ready to go to bed after your long, exciting day, you followed them home. And again, this is the moment when the story starts to pick up. This is right before you get to have full reign on the moments. So I'm going to have my comfort be relaxed with a fond feeling of interest. So, ready? You won't be able to change it until step 2. Yes. At breakfast At the breakfast table the next morning, you finished your food faster than usual. Your sister Lizzie had run out earlier to go play, but you stayed put. Today, just like your mom had promised, Cove was coming over to hang out. Excited to see your new friend again, Luna? Yeah, I am. I'm so happy he moved in. With that said, are you done with your breakfast? Yeah. With all the exasperation of an 8-year-old can muster, you looked at your empty cereal bowl, then at Mom. Okay, attitude kid, we see. Good job. You should be here soon. Cleanup began, and then on cue, there was a knock. It was hesitant, like the person wasn't sure they were in the right place. Still loud though. We need to get a more obvious doorbell. I know. Luna, can you get it? Wiggling out of your chair without really pushing it back, you made your way to the door. Hey, Stark family, thanks for having us. Mr. Holden, as your moms had called him, and his son were here. Cove looked different in the bright lighting of your living room and when he wasn't crying. With his dad standing in front of him and Mom and Mommy behind you, and Cove looked at each other. Pleased to see your new friend again, you smiled at Cove. He smiled back with hesitation. So, this is just a item description, so this really doesn't have any bearing on the story. This is just some things that you wear that your character does not see on your doll. So this is usually the one that I go for. Let's go play in my room. Okay. Let us know if you need anything, you two. Have fun, kids. See you later, son. Play nice. You led him to your room, puffing out your chest a little bit at the sight of your treasures. There are lots of stuffed animals, a cool bed, and a window to look out. It was a great room. You hadn't had anyone to show it to in a while, but you were really proud of it. He landed a little closer to one of your drawings on the wall. I like this. Thank you. You're welcome. You smiled at him. You were proud of that particular piece of art, and you were glad he noticed it. He turned to look around the room a little more, studying the books on your desk and the pictures on the walls. You felt the atmosphere was kind of outward, or you hoped he liked your room. Let's go for this one. You had put a lot of effort into making your room as nice as it was. You hoped he didn't say anything bad about it. Then his eyes landed on the tiny box of beach things you'd collected, tucked away by your door. He took a step toward it before hesitating and pointing at it instead. What's that? A hoard of stuff I found on the beach. Do you have any driftwood in there? Dragging the box into the middle of the room, you and Cove flopped down next to it. I think so. Yeah, see. You gestured to a piece at the bottom, still covered with specks of sand. Neat. This is all a good collection. You got the sense from the tone of his voice that he wasn't just saying it to be nice or to be like Shiloh. He actually meant it. Oh, right. I almost forgot. Shiloh is going to be here today. Shiloh? Lizzie's friend, or like her number one fan, I guess. Do I have to see him? It should be okay. I mean, he's Lizzie's friend, not mine, but you know. Come on, check out my shells some more. I found this one under a big piece of seaweed that was ashore, and you pulled out seashell after seashell, explaining where you'd gotten each one and holding them up against the light. There were big ones, small ones, pink, purple, and orange. Most of them washed off in the bathroom sink when you brought them home, cleaning off the sand. Over the past few years, you'd even learned some of those scientific names. You had a whole picture book dedicated to different shells and sea life. You learned a lot by flipping through its pages. Apparently fascinated either by the stories or by the shells themselves, Cove listened with what looked like the full force of its attention. It was a new experience to be the center of such dedicated focus. But Cove hadn't been mean to you. So you didn't mind. You smiled at him, and every now and again, while showing him your collection. Kids, come down to the living room. You could tell the idea was making him unhappy, but Mommy wasn't giving you much of a choice to hang around. Cove hadn't been like this meeting you. You guess it was because he thinks you found each other by accident, not that a parent made it happen. Mr. Holden must be right by that telling Cove his dad was part of that would be a bad idea. Before you knew it, you'd both been escorted downstairs and deposited in the living room, ready for Shiloh's visit. The two of you sat side by side on the floor of your home's entryway. I brought the box of shells. I want to keep looking at them. Great. Bust it open. We can keep looking while we wait for Shiloh. Cove reached in and pulled out a big orange shell. Ooh. Like he hadn't spoken aloud yet, he turned to you and held it up, his eyes shining. I think this one is the best of them. You can take it. He looked at you in surprise, his eyes going wide. Really? Sure, you like it a lot, right? Uh-huh, but I don't want to take it from you. It's okay. You got the impression he was hesitant to accept something because he didn't know you very well. You insist. No, it's okay for you. You pushed the shell against Cove's chest, willing him to receive the present, but Cove firmly shook his head and kept his arm tightly into it at his side. It was a battle you couldn't win, at least not today. Cove is your neighbor now. Maybe you can give it to him another time. The two of you were still sitting on the floor, looking through your collection of beach findings when the doorbell finally rang. Cove jumped, startled by the sound. Since the person had knocked, you figured it was probably Shiloh. He knew where to look for that. Lizzie's friend? You nodded, but that didn't seem to make Cove feel better. It was already obvious that Cove didn't hide his feelings well. You could tell what he was thinking right away. This isn't a good idea. You'll be alright. He's here. We can't tell him to leave. He's at our only door, and if you go upstairs, he'll find you. Cove glanced around the room, his eyes wide, and finally paused with his gaze locked onto the back of the house. I can go out the window. He was already walking toward it. Scrambling to think of something to say, you stepped forward, then paused. I'll come with you. Hurry, they'll see where we're going. He glanced back at you, then nodded. The two of you made your way to the window together. It wasn't much of a distance to clamber out, but by the time you landed gently in the bushes, you looked up to see that Cove was already taking off away from the house. At that speed, you weren't sure if you could go fast enough to reach him. Hey, wait up! You ran as fast as your legs would take you, grass whipping around your ankles as you did so. Cautiously, Cove slowed to a halt and looked back at you. Where are you going? I don't know. Somewhere else. Just don't want to see. Luna! You looked back and saw Shiloh huffing down the hill after you, the backpack he clutched bouncing all around along the way. What are you doing? Can I come? He must have seen you leaving out the window and followed behind. Oh, hi. Are you Cove? I'm Shiloh. Okay. Yep. Are we going back, or are we going to play outside? Shiloh's eyes moved between you and Cove, his smile remaining strong on his face. It was a tiny frown from Cove in response. You were just grateful he hadn't asked why you had been running away. Inside, we left the box on the floor. Right, my shells and stuff. We have to make sure they're okay. With Shiloh trailing behind, you and Cove headed back towards the house. The plan for the afternoon, at least as far as you were concerned, was to sit and look at the beach things some more. You weren't really in the mood to do much of anything else, specifically if Cove was having fun. Hey, check out this scallop shell I found. Cool, right? It's a pretty color. Kind of like my cast. The beautiful glittering pink did look a little bit like the wrap around his arm. Pink is a nice color. Okay. Is it your favorite? Not really. What is? Maybe green? Or blue? It might be yellow. Ooh, those are all cool. Not sure how to deal with the sudden, more awkward silence, you looked back at your shells. Like usual, it didn't take long for Shiloh to get fidgety. Lizzie was his favorite. Without her around, Shiloh didn't seem to know what to do with himself. And Cove wasn't like your sister. He wasn't that much like you either. Is Lizzie coming back? Don't know. Where'd she go? I think she's at the beach, probably. Is she playing at her park? Cove's eyes lit up at the mention of the park, and he looked toward you. There's a park? Yep, but it's old. Can you show me? I want to go. He started getting up before you had even answered, and Shiloh jumped up beside him in excitement. Really? You do? So, right, Luna? The park is fun. The park is pretty great. It's right at the beach, so there's a lot of fun stuff to do, and lots of sand. It has a jungle gym and a bunch of swings. That sounds like it could be cool. So, are we going to find Lizzie? I don't know. I never really wanted to see her. I just wanted to check the park out. Adrift without any direction, Shiloh finally turned to you. Okay. He perked up. Both boys wanted to go. It was only fair. After getting permission from your moms, the three of you were ready to head out. It's a short walk to the park. Lizzie had convinced her moms that it was so short she'd always be allowed to walk there by herself. When you found her, she was hanging on the jungle gym, swinging back and forth. Hey, Lizzie! Her face lit up when she saw her big brown eyes going wide. Luna, Shiloh! Hi! She dropped to the ground and landed with a soft thud in the sand. In a split second, Shiloh had abandoned you two and scrambled over to stand by her. You were used to being left out when it was just the three of you, but now Cove was here. You wonder if he would leave too. Who's that? It's Cove. He's new. I remember. Hi, Cove. Welcome to my park. Nobody ever comes to play here, so this is where we get together. She gestured widely with her arms as if to present the area to the newcomer. Without interruption Lizzie's speech, Cove whispered in your ear quiet enough that the others wouldn't overhear. I thought kids couldn't own places like parks or hills. You couldn't help but laugh a tiny bit. While Lizzie continued talking, you took the chance to kick off your shoes and wiggle your toes through the warm sand. Nice. In this neighborhood, I'm the one who comes up with the ideas. You are? Yeah, I am. Who else could handle the job? Lizzie is the oldest. By a lot. My mom's say you're Luna's age. Yeah. Thought so. I'm still the only one in this group with double digits. What about other kids? Other kids? There aren't any. We're the only kids here, and Shiloh is just visiting from another place. Not even tourists really bring their kids here. This is the land of ancients. Be careful that the oldies don't try to steal your youth. For a second, it looked like he might cry again. But something in his eyes shifted, and he looked back at Lizzie. What kind of old people? Like moms and dads or grandparents? Grandparents who don't have kids. They hate kids. Why? We haven't done anything. Only some of them don't like kids. You interjected quickly, hoping Lizzie wouldn't take things too far. Cove sniffled, his forehead creasing with worry. Lizzie was staring Cove down, but Cove wasn't even looking at her anymore. He didn't seem to care that she was there. He went into his own head. Shiloh was the next one to speak, completely unaware of the situation. I met Lizzie and Luna in school. You'll see Tunsikins there when summer is over. I don't want to go to a new school. I don't want summer to end. Shiloh looked down into the dirt. He hasn't had much luck striking out conversations with Cove. I nice information a lot, too. All the building tension in the air suddenly vanished when Lizzie laughed. At Shiloh's discomfort at how weird she thought Cove was at something else entirely, you didn't really know. But she laughed, face scrunching up. Welcome to Sunset Berg, Cove. Take a seat, put up your feet, and get used to it. You offered him a small smile, and that at least looked to reassure him some. For the rest of the summer, Cove was always there. You saw him more often than Shiloh, and on some days, when she was in a bad mood or busy, you even saw him more than Lizzie. He became a staple of your everyday life, the way sun and lunch and the beach were. During your first summer together, you really liked Cove. He was a fun person to play with, and he seemed to like playing with you too. Of course, that was only the start of things. And that is the end of the prologue. So next video, I will start up on the first two with shopping and grown up. I will start with those, and as we go, we will do more and more. So again, each step has normally only 5 moments, but there are DLC moments. So these are the ones on the bottom with the DLC star next to them. So I will start with shopping and grown up. Next video, and then the video after that will be long day and sandcastle, then fireflies and library, then ghost and barbecue, and then runaway and sleepover. Enjoy!